Hey everybody, we're about to get to a great episode of the Adventist Hoops podcast, but before we do, I wanted to just check in with Drew Meckelberg. He's the head men's coach and athletic director at Union Adventist University. And Drew, we've been talking a lot recently because we've been planning together this second annual Adventist Hoops All-American weekend that's happening at Union Adventist University in Lincoln, Nebraska, July 29 through August 2 here in 2026. What are you most looking forward to about this event being at Union?
Dustin, we are really looking forward to having everybody on our campus. We love the community that we've grown. We love the camaraderie, getting to interact with other coaches from the Adventist realm, as well as players. Seeing the best players from the country on our campus is something we're really looking forward to.
Well, we're looking forward to being there, and I'll tell you what, Union's going to be a great partner. This event is happening because not only they have the people that are going to help partner with us to make this put the event together, you also have the facilities. The All-Star Game is going to be at the legendary Thunderdome on Saturday night, August 1. But one of the requirements of having this event is that we got to have multiple courts for all of the athletes that are going to be there. There's drills, there's practices, scrimmages, so we need more than one facility. And you guys have that in that brand new wellness and fitness center there on campus. It's pretty big. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the Reiner Wellness Center was built 2 years ago, and we have absolutely loved having it. We've got 2 full-size college basketball courts. We've got a turf area that can be used. We've got a state-of-the-art weight room, a swimming pool, 25-meter swimming pool, and a running track, cardio equipment. It is all going to be used that weekend, and we cannot wait to show off our new facility.
We are excited to use it. We're going to use, I think, every inch of the campus there for that weekend. Drew, I also wanted to ask you just about Union as a destination for athletes that are out there that are wanting to play at the next level. Union just recently joined the NCCAA. What is that, and why would Union be a good spot for someone to land if they're interested in playing, not even just basketball, at the next level?
Yeah, we've been really excited about our affiliation with the National Christian College Athletic Association. We have played a lot of these teams for over 40 years, but now we get a chance to legitimize our program and play against these same teams, but compete at the collegiate level for championships and tournaments and all of those good things. And so we offer men's soccer, women's volleyball, men's and women's basketball at the NCCAA level. But then we also have a golf team and a acrobatics gymnastics team that is a huge part of what we do as an athletic program here on our campus.
Well, if you decide to make the trip out to Union to Lincoln this summer to watch the second annual Adventist Hoops All-American All-Star Games on Saturday night, August 1, you'll get to see all of these places, these facilities, and the great program that Drew has going there. A long history, a great tradition of athletics there at Union Adventist University. And just a big thank you that goes out to Union for partnering to make this second annual All-American weekend happen. We couldn't do it without them, and we're looking forward to coming out to Nebraska this summer. Thanks, Drew.
You bet. Can't wait. We're looking forward to it.
All right, now let's get to this episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Adventist Hoops podcast. Here with Josh Boyko. And Josh, exciting day today. This is early April 2026. We announced the 2026 Adventist Hoops All-Americans, the boys and the girls that'll be coming out to Lincoln, Nebraska this summer and participating in the second Adventist Hoops All-American weekend there at Union Adventist University. So a really exciting day just to be able to get that out there. And I know that the kids are really excited, and some were a little impatient, I'll just say that, just wanting to find out who's on the team and who is making it, and of course wanting to make their plans. So, and I'm really excited that you're going to be able to come out this summer. We wanted you to out there last year, and it wasn't able to happen, but you're planning on coming, right?
Yes, that is the plan at this moment, to take that time off from the normal sports broadcasting gig and just have a blast with Adventist Hoops. Really love the documentary that you guys were able to push out from that weekend last year. It was phenomenal, so I'm so excited to be a part of it and get to kind of join the crew a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're looking forward to having you, and really you've joined the crew already just because you've been doing a lot of interviews with different teams and Adventist players across the country for our blog, and we have one that's coming out this week that is featuring our guest today, who Adrian Hargrove. It features his alma mater. So tell us a little bit about the article that you put together about Oakwood Adventist Academy.
Yeah, so got a chance to talk with some of the players, the coaching staff, and all the good stuff that was going on that year that had them undefeated with their area record and that tough schedule that they played, and just the surroundings with how that season did come to an end, but just the accomplishments that all those young men had, and just the great character that they showed as well. So it was a blast to get to know them a little bit and chat with that team.
Well, appreciate all the work that you've been doing to kind of go into a little more detail in a different medium that I've been really excited to kind of get more of that going, some more written pieces. And so it's been really awesome. Thank you so much for all your hard work on those. And unless you got anything else, let's bring on our guest.
Yeah, let's bring it on.
Okay, so Adrian Hargrove, my friend, my former teammate, when we played together at Pacific Union College back in the day, and somebody that was involved with the Adventist Hoops All-American Weekend last year, and was just a great presence to have around all of the kids and the coaches, and added so much to what we were doing last year. Is also a Division I basketball player at Alabama A&M. So we'll talk about his whole journey and then some exciting things that he has going on that relates to the Adventist Hoops All-American Weekend this year in 2026 at Union Adventist University. Adrian, welcome to the Adventist Hoops podcast.
What's up, fellas? Thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, did you get a chance to watch this Oakwood Academy team at all this year?
Yes. I made it to a few games. Games.
Okay. Now, when we were at PUC together, I remember you distinctly saying word for word that your Oakwood Academy team was the best Adventist team ever assembled. So, I'm curious how you feel. Now, you guys had some players though. Like we laugh about it, but I mean, how do you think you guys compared to this year's team?
It's not even close. I don't know about the best ever Adventist, high school.
Okay, and maybe I'm embellishing. Maybe you only said like the best. I'm pretty sure you said best Adventist team ever, but maybe it was just at Oakwood Academy. I don't know.
We were definitely the best Oakwood Academy team ever. Okay, and I'll stand on that one. I can't say
come after Adrian now.
I can't say best Adventist high school team ever, because we didn't play everybody. Right. But I can at least say I can put my stamp on the best one ever to come out of Oakwood Academy.
Okay. Now, were you guys in the Alabama State Association at that point for
No,
sports?
we weren't. So back then we didn't have our own gym, and so that's what hurt us. Otherwise, we would have banners everywhere.
So did you play at the college gym for your games? Or?
And we were almost like a modern day AAU team, because we traveled to Georgia. We go play GAAA. We go play F.H. Jenkins up in Nashville. We go to play. I was another school in Mississippi. So we traveled a lot. We drove up to Pine Forge. We played in the Tacoma tournament. We played in the Southwestern tournament. So we traveled quite a bit.
I haven't really heard about a Tacoma tournament. So what was that like?
So we only I only got to play 1 year. So the story goes, the first year that they went was my 8th grade year. And apparently Tacoma already had their names on the trophies. And we won.
Oh my goodness.
And then my second year, my freshman year, we won it again. And then we weren't invited back. So I don't know if they continued to have the tournament or we just weren't invited.
Well, if that's actually how it went down, then maybe that's the reason I've never heard about it before.
They didn't want to tell me about that.
And then I think my senior year or my junior year, they invited us back, but our coach said nah.
Was this an Adventist tournament at TA at the time?
Or
I'm not even certain. I'm not even certain.
Yeah.
Well, hey, since we were talking about Josh's article with Oakwood Academy, I wanted to just ask you about your alma mater there. But why don't we back up just a little bit and tell us just a little bit about where you're from and what your basketball journey was like even before, as you were leading into high school. Curious, because I don't know that I've heard all the details as well.
Oh man, fell in love with basketball just playing in the driveway. Like most of us, playing outside. A little country boy, so
You're Huntsville born and raised, right?
Huntsville born and raised. So milk crate nailed to the tree. We played on that when we didn't have a goal, but went to Oakwood, got to the academy, and it was like a dream come true. Being SDA, that was our that goal you wanted to reach for. You wanted to play for the academy, and so I was very fortunate to get to Oakwood Academy. I actually spoke today at a fundraiser for Coach Leonard Douglas, who was our coach, and that's who our gym court is named after. And so just got to speak, on him and some of those memories and experiences. He was a military guy, so our workouts were just running and push-ups. We didn't do weights. We didn't have a weight room because, like I said before, we didn't have our own gym. We just ran. And we just fell in love with the game. That was what we did every day, all day, sneaking out of school to go play ball. And it became my outlet, for everything. It became my safe haven. And so you said just high school, right? Did you want to keep?
Yeah. We can get into college. I mean, I'm curious, what you talked a little bit about your team's success there. Was Chris Watkins on your
Chris
team?
Watkins was there. Chris was a junior my freshman year.
Also one of my eventual teammates at Pacific Union College for 1 year. You didn't play with him at PUC, I don't think.
Yeah.
And
what was he
like
in
Chris?
by the time he got to PUC, his knees weren't that great.
Oh, so he wasn't the Skywalker no more.
I mean, you could tell, but he just didn't, have the same balance. But even still, he was really effective.
Yeah, I think one of the unique things about our team is we had the same group of guys for a long time. I would say they had started playing together longer. So to just put it in perspective, my freshman year, I was the only freshman to play varsity. There was one sophomore, 8 juniors, and 3 seniors. And so that same core really kind of went back to my 6th grade year. And, so we played youth federation, we played in camp meeting, so all of those things, you had the same group of guys that kind of played together. Then we played in a summer league together here. We played in open runs throughout the city together. And so as we grew up, there's certain things that you just can't coach, just that chemistry when you know each other. One thing I always took pride in as a guard is knowing how to get the ball, to my guys. So, Chris, he was a 1-foot jumper, so you had to throw him a oop a certain way. My guy Demidro, he was a 2-foot jumper, so you had to throw him the oop a certain way, knowing your shooters that like the pocket pass, knowing the ones that like the bounce pass. So when you're just playing with the same group of guys for so long, you develop just some things that you really just can't coach or teach. It's just, you just have a knack for each other.
By the time you got to PUC, you were a scoring guard, I would say. Were you that in high school?
Not until my junior year. So I could get to the bucket. Now, I would say that. I was quick, I was explosive, but my jump shot was not consistent. My junior year, myself and a friend of mine, one of my teammates, Norton Webb, we went to a shooting camp. Here. It was a 3-day camp, and it was interesting to be at a shooting camp. And for the first 2 days, we did not touch a basketball.
Wow.
Everything was just mechanics and balance. And so what happened was that's where I really developed my jump shot. That, and I had a neighbor that was a former semi-pro, oh no, I guess you could say pro, overseas basketball player. He was about 7 foot, about 6'11", 7 foot. And he would come down, I'd be in my yard, playing, and he'd come down and, talk to me and shoot around with me. And then we'd start our one-on-one battles. I never scored. Never scored. He blocked most of my shots. But I would say playing against him and the shooting camp, one of the things that I kind of put 2 and 2 together was he told me never change your shot. Because, you when you want to score, you just end up throwing the ball up any kind of way. And he was just like, stop changing your shot. And I'm like, well, stop blocking it then. But, again, putting those 2 things together, I just learned to develop a faster release. And so translating into, playing at Oakwood Academy, I didn't run into too many 7-footers. So having a quick release that I was like, well, I got to the point where I can get my shot off on a 7-footer, even though I never made it. Playing against other high schoolers, it was like, oh, this is easy. And even when we would play college, we would play intramurals at the college. It was like, getting my shot off is never going to be a problem. And so as I developed the jump shot and then put that together with, having a little quickness, having a little explosion, I feel like I became a more well-rounded player.
Yeah. How much of that was just a balance between reps versus mechanics, and how crazy was it to have a 7-footer just to be able to have that one-on-one time with? How much did that benefit you?
Oh, tremendously. Because again, he taught me a lot about just basketball in general, and taking angles and, what not to do. And, why are you doing this? And it's like, well, because it was a cool move. And it's like, yeah, but you're wasting energy, you're wasting space, and so I really benefited from playing with older people. My uncles had older cousins. Again, just going to the gym, playing rec ball, where, the grown-ups let you play. You can't be out there whining and crying, and, you got to play defense. And, you really learned how to play basketball the right way, I would say, because they weren't going to let you play if you came out there just fooling around. And so I would say that really benefited me, and it translated into, my overall game.
Back when you and I were in high school, AAU club basketball was not as popular as it is today. And I played a song for my son the other day, and I was like, I would just have this song. I remember listening to this song, just driving around, just like trying to find a game, like going to a park or whatever. But nowadays, so I guess I'm curious, because a lot of kids get exposure because they're already like playing at different tournaments where college coaches come and watch. What was your recruiting process like in high school as you developed over those years?
So here we had a unique situation. So in Huntsville, there was really one AAU team. And that was the Alabama Lasers. That was a Nike team. And I think eventually they ended up maybe having 2. It was kind of like tier A, tier B type situation. But most of your guys that were getting the D1 offers and, the best of the best played on that team. Everyone else played in our summer league, which was a Converse sponsored league. And so pretty much everybody else played in that. And so that was honestly how we kind of measured ourselves, against the kids we were reading in the newspaper, because each high school varsity team would have a team in, those in that tournament. And so even those guys that play AAU, when they weren't traveling, they were there. So we got to play against a lot of those guys during the summers. And so you were going to get some exposure there because, the high school coaches are going to be there. You might get a college coach pop up, every now and then because that's where everyone was. And so that was a lot of exposure that we got. As far as my recruiting process, it kind of happened in a very unique way. Again, having faith and belief was very important. My mom would always say, God will put you where he wants you to be. He'll put you in the right place at the right time. And so I was a gym rat, and so at Oakwood College, now university, they had a men's summer league that went on each summer. And so my junior year, it was my junior year. I would go up to the gym every day. I had gone to the thrift store and purchased every reversible color jersey you could possibly imagine, just in case somebody needed one. And so, I would go up to the gym for the first game, every Sunday morning, and I would just be there all day. Like, you need one? You need one? And one day, somebody needed one. They were about to forfeit, and they needed one. And so, I had my jersey ready, whatever. So, which color are we? I got it. I got it. And it just so happened we were playing against an alumni team from Alabama A&M. And the assistant coach was playing, he was Coach Coach Willie Hayes. He was still in great shape. And so he was out there, and, I had a quiet 36. But, just having some conversation with him, he's just like, I've never really seen you before. Like, what school did you go to? And I was like, well, I'm in high school, and he's like, what high school? I was like, I'm at Oakwood Academy. And he was like, oh, well, we need to talk. And that's where my recruiting started with Alabama A&M. And so from then on, Coach Hayes was like, hey, we want to bring you in. And as Mom said, God put me, in the right place at the right time to meet the right person. And, thankfully I was prepared to perform. Back then I got up at 5 every morning. I put up my shots. I ran. I, did my push-ups and sit-ups, and so I tried to keep my body right. And so when the opportunity presented itself, God opened that door, and I was able to step through.
If you're dropping a quiet 36 while still in high school at this point, did you have anyone that you were modeling your game after at that point? Was it a teammate that you looked up to, or someone that you'd always watched, or was it just your own thing?
I had heard about this guy named Dustin Kahn, and what my favorite player at that time, it's interesting. John Stockton was actually one of my favorite players, but Baron Davis was someone that...
You do play a lot like Baron Davis, actually.
Yeah, Baron Davis was probably, my favorite player during that time.
That's funny. It's a good question. Yeah. Well, so you finished high school, and was A&M the only option? Like, you were like, hey, they want me. I'm going there. Did you consider anything else? Oakwood College or?
Well, yeah, Oakwood. They took me to dinner, and they tried, but I was just like, I'm not going to Oakwood. And I'm getting the Division I offer. I was first, to my knowledge, the first person coming out of Oakwood Academy to get the opportunity to play, Division I basketball. We had some great guys that I know, like my best friend, Demetro. He went to CUC. A couple other guys went to CUC and some other places. But, for me, that was huge. And, I was like, I want to make history, and so, so went to A&M.
Yeah. And what was the mindset or the approach to Sabbath while you were, in these conversations, or once you actually got on campus?
So actually, during the recruiting process, I remember telling, I had the conversation with Coach Hayes, and I said, hey, I'm Seventh-day Adventist. I can't, play on Sabbath. That's sunset Friday night to sunset Saturday night. And he was just like, well, that won't be a problem. He was like, don't worry about that. And then once I got there and we saw the schedule, it was like, oh, most of the games I think were Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturday nights. So I didn't have to really worry about it. When we traveled, we might say if we had a Saturday night game out of town, we might leave Thursday, have a Friday afternoon shoot around, and walk through. And then, Friday night we're back in the hotel. And so, I was, again, blessed to be in a situation where I didn't have to really make a whole lot of decisions when it came to that. And again, it's just all glory to God. I feel like he had already laid it out when he's like, hey, I got you. I got you. So it was really a blessing that it didn't really conflict with my beliefs.
What was the jump like for you from high school basketball going to Division I NCAA basketball? Was it a kind of a surprise at what level they were playing, or?
I was more than surprised. Because again, coming from Oakwood Academy, we were disciplined, but not really structured. And I say that because we didn't really run plays. We were full court press, because again, our coach was a military guy. So it was full court press all game. Our offense was kind of a pass and pick away, kind of that motion offense, but we didn't really have plays. And so going from that, and then also Oakwood Academy, I think there were 43 people in my graduating class, I want to say. We had 160 in the school. Going to, I had 80 people in my history class at A&M.
Right.
But I would definitely say, and it was my first time ever lifting weights. Mm-hmm. So when strength and conditioning started, one of my funniest stories, I remember the very first day we had a team meeting, and this is all the returning players, all the recruits. And so I want to say there were probably 60 guys in the room, and I think 11 or 12 returning players. And I'm hearing these guys talk about, oh yeah, I played against this person, or this person was on my high school team and they're going to Kentucky, and this person is going to Auburn, and this person's going to Bama, and I'm like, I got a friend that went to CUC.
Did you feel like I don't know, they always talk about imposter syndrome.
I did.
I
did. I really did. But I would say I was confident in my skill level, and I wanted to prove something. Because again, these are the guys that I had to read about in the newspaper. But I'm like, I'm better than him. I know I'm better than him. And so that was very eye-opening to really start to understand the recruiting process, because it's like, wow, there's 4 spots, and there's like 60 people in here. And everybody's been told, similar things like, oh, yeah, we got a spot for you, blah, blah, blah. But, the coach would always tell me, Coach Hayes, he was just like, you're good. Just come in, do what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, but yeah, who else are you telling that to? And then just the reality of the demands. First workout session. So that 60, they split us into 2 groups. One group was supposed to meet at the field house at 6 a.m. The other group came at noon, and we were to meet with the strength and conditioning coaches. And again, I come from Oakwood Academy. My coach was strict, but everybody's loving and kind and the heart of God. And I remember they paired me with the starting point guard. It was Desmond Cambridge. He led the SWAC in steals. Actually, he led the nation in steals one year. But, about 6'1", strong is somebody really strong, like maybe Samson. But they paired me with him, and he's just like, get to the gym or get to the field house at about 5:15, 5:30 at the latest. And I'm like, they said 6. He's like, get to the field house. 5:15, 5:30 at the latest. So I get there, and so I'm with him, and we're talking and just kind of stretching, and he's just explaining some stuff to me. So I remember 6 o'clock rolls around, and we start working out. Like, you're already stretched, you're already warmed up, the workout's up on the, there's a big whiteboard, and I don't know what anything means. Because again, I've never worked out with weights before. So it's, the 2X DB press, the, SQT, and it's just like, what is that? He's just like, hey, you're with me, don't worry about it. And so I'd say about 6:05. So that was one thing where it's just like, oh, this is real stuff. It was maybe like 6:05. This guy shows up. So Coach Jordan, who was our strength and conditioning coach, meets him at the door, and he's just like, what are you doing? And he was just like, oh yeah, my bad, coach. He's like, well, why are you late? He's, oh, I overslept. And he's like, oh, get the blank out my. And we're like, wow. And then he said, who's his roommate? And so the guy was there, and he was just like, why didn't you wake him up? And he was just like, he ain't my responsibility. He was like, oh, get the F out my. And it was like, wow. My coach didn't use that type of language.
It got real quick.
But just really even understanding the mindset and the demand and the expectation of, no, your teammates are your responsibility, and, the Des, he kind of explained it to me. He was just like, that's not going to fly. Because if that's your attitude, that you would leave your teammate, all right, well, I'm going to take care of me. He was like, that type of mentality is not going to work on this team. And that was like a real wake-up call, like, oh, this is serious. And I'll never forget that my first workout, again, with this guy, the next morning, I could not move. I was scared for a second because, I woke up and I was just like, I can't move. Like I really couldn't move. And, I got stronger. I got a lot faster. Couldn't jump quite. It kind of messed up my hops because I put on about 10 pounds of muscle over that summer. But I was definitely faster and stronger. But it was just an amazing experience, man. The guys were great in practice. I was the smallest, so they liked to throw me up in the air so I could dunk. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, it was just an amazing experience.
Yeah. Going back to something that you said a moment ago about you're trying to prove yourself on this team and make sure you got that roster spot and everything. When you jump from high school to that level of D1, I mean, you were probably the best player on your high school team. Most of those people usually are the best player from their team going into D1. What was it like trying to get your own, so to speak, and stand out, but also not be the sore thumb that's standing out because you're trying to stand out?
Understanding, and again, Des was such a great mentor for me, as well as Coach Hayes, is understanding the value of a role. And so it was, your role as the point guard is to learn all the plays, offense and defense. So that was another shock for me. When I first thought about plays, it's like, okay, you learn the offensive plays, but we also had defensive plays or defensive sets. but understanding that role of how I can impact the game other than just scoring. Because, like you said, coming to that level, pretty much everybody could get a bucket. But who's going to be that person who's going to talk? Who's going to be that person that's going to, really play D? Who's going to really learn the plays? Who's going to be that guy that's encouraging everybody? Because everybody was good. Everybody was strong. Everybody was fast. Everybody was, talented. And so the way I was able to stand out was I was like, I'm gonna go all out and hustle. I'm gonna dive on the floor. I'm gonna talk on defense. I'm gonna, be loud. And again, these are things that Dez was also telling me. He's just like, hey man, when you're out there, make sure you're talking. Make sure you're communicating with everybody. Make sure you know where everybody is supposed to be. That was something else. It wasn't just learning where I'm supposed to go on the play. I'm supposed to know what Dustin is supposed to do. I'm supposed to know what Josh is supposed to do. I know what happens here. I know what happens there. And, you just become that as a point guard, you become that extension of the coach on the floor. And so that's how I was able to really stand out. Just be that person that's just going all out. When you're hustling, people want to play with you.
What a great example of your teammate to take you under his wing. I mean, he didn't have to do that, but it seems like that was a part of the culture, but also probably something that stuck with you, that maybe had an impact on you, not even just during that experience at A&M, but also at other stops in your basketball career, but also maybe in your future. I mean, you've been a mentor for youth, and I'm curious what that experience, how that impacted you.
Yes. Absolutely. I think for me, what's the, ball is life. I really feel that way. I feel like the lessons that I learned in basketball, have helped me all through life. I feel like if you win, I win. If Dustin gets hot and I'm feeding him, because of course everybody knows that Dustin is a bucket. So if he's hot and I'm feeding him, the way I look at it and the way I look at life is every bucket he gets, every point he scores, it goes up on our team. That's our team point. And, thinking again holistically as all wanting to strive to get to heaven. Anyone that I can impact in a positive way that can help them, get closer to God, that can help them with their mental health, that can help them, spiritually, whatever it might be. To me, that's a bucket, and if they're winning, I'm winning, and so that's how I look at, basketball, and that's how I look at life, man. It's just, how can I help someone else be their best self?
It was interesting, that phrase "ball is life." I think usually people take that to mean that ball is the most important thing in life, but no, you're saying ball is like life. Ball is the same kind of experiences you're going to have on the court or with a team or with a superior or with, a brother or whatever. That is going to be the same as in real life. That's a really cool way to look at it. Maybe we gotta co-opt that hashtag in a different way.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true.
So ultimately, what was your experience that you walked through at A&M, and what was the outcome with you there?
So I think I did get a little, again, it was kind of a culture shock. Being over there, having gone through Oakwood, 1st grade through 12th grade. And so there were some things that I didn't quite understand, which ultimately led to me leaving and going to Oakwood College, which, back to Oakwood, because that was home for me. That was where I was a little more comfortable. If I could do it all over again, I'm happy where God has brought me, now. I wouldn't have got to meet Dustin. But, I do sometimes think about like, man, what if I had stayed? What if I had asked some more questions? What if I had been a little bit more comfortable? sticking around and figuring it out, versus just saying, I'm just gonna go back to Oakwood where I know everybody, and I'm comfortable there, and that was my safety net.
Yeah.
And so, went back to Oakwood, played there for a second, and then I met Mike and Andrew Ford, who eventually transferred to PUC. And they talked, they said, hey, man, this is in Cali, this is cool school. And I think I just needed a change as well. And so I said, hey, I'll give it a shot. Came out that summer, met the guys, met Dustin. I was like, I can play with him. It's a little feisty. And so that's what brought me to PUC.
I was just curious, Oakwood was not NAIA at that point.
Probably. Or were they?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I don't think we were.
I was just curious about Adventist College history there. But PUC was in the NAIA at that point. What was your experience like playing at PUC?
Oh man, PUC was fun. The covered wagon? Is that?
That's right.
And again, that was a culture shock for me. Culturally, again, going to Oakwood, so being at a HBCU, Alabama A&M is a HBCU, and so flipping that completely over, and being in a different environment culturally, was an adjustment. But again, I feel like it made me a more well-rounded person. I got to see something different. Playing with guys like Dustin, Tade, who else did we have? Thurber.
Matt.
Miracle, aka Spanky. Just all the guys.
I don't know about that. I don't know what that means, but okay.
I called him Spanky because he was like my little brother. So that's just a little nickname.
We definitely had some fun seasons there, and you were a big part of it. After PUC, as I referenced earlier, I mean, you really tuned into your passion for youth and mentorship, and that's basically been your whole career, correct?
Yeah. So while at PUC, I started working at the local group home up there. And so that I just fell in love with it. Again, talking to some of those kids there, bringing them to the gym. A lot of them had never met a college basketball player. So, the way the team just kind of adopted, all of these guys who, had found themselves in unfortunate situations, whether it's a foster care system or I think some were on probation, but just some youth that had just had a rough at it. And so I think the culture we were able to create, in that PUC community was even impactful, for them and changed some of their lives. One of the guys I actually still talk to now, that I worked with at the group home, he again, it had some tough decisions, and he did some time in the big boy place. But he's out now. He has a training. He's a personal trainer. He also does mentoring now. Has a family, and we've kept in touch. And so it's just amazing to see his growth and some of the other guys I bump into here and there on social media. And so it's just amazing, man. I love it.
And you've done various things within youth work over those years, but now you find yourself as an executive for Boys and Girls Club of Alabama. I believe you oversee 8 different...
Seven, yes. So I'm a regional director for the Boys and Girls Clubs of North Alabama. And so, I oversee seven of our 13, 14 clubs we have now. And so it's again just I love it. Just to get to see our youth grow up, in the club and see the little ones, just create opportunities for them and really, our motto is great futures start here. And, that's my goal in life, is to be able to impact the lives of the youth and my community and, ultimately, our world.
Well, you've certainly been doing that. And like I said at the very beginning, you brought that experience and just your presence to the Adventist Hoops All-American weekend last year in Loma Linda. What was your experience like at that?
Man, it was it's a similar experience I had at the first Oakwood Academy game in their new gym. It's like you're so happy for them, but then you're kind of jealous. You're like, where was this at when I was coming up? But man, you guys did a phenomenal job with that All-Star weekend, man. Just walking in and day one, they're doing the interviews, they're doing the thing in front of the backdrop with the stuff, and I'm like, this is crazy. They're getting their jerseys, they're signing the jerseys, they're getting their swag bags, and I was just like, Dustin is the man.
Well, you were a big part of it. I mean, you were not only interacting on a personal level, you spoke to the group as a whole as well. What impressed you most about those athletes last year, the interactions that you got to have with them?
It brought back memories. Man, it brought back memories. Just seeing them sitting, especially when we got back to the dorm, just seeing them sitting all 15 of them trying to fit in one room. Just sitting up talking. One of the things I also kind of pay attention to is like, whose room do they go to? Because to me, that's what I look to see, like, who's the leader? Like, who's that guy that everyone starts to gravitate to? But just seeing the brotherhood and sisterhood, with the ladies team, but just seeing those bonds develop, and I think, you look at us now, and it's like, man, these relationships are going to last a lifetime.
I even saw it this year, being at the Southwestern tournament in January, end of January. Some of those kids seeing each other again. It was a real bond that they created and have maintained, via social media. But when they saw each other again, it was like they hadn't even been apart. Like they got right back to it. Yep.
So just seeing that, man, and just all the work that was put into really making them feel special. Because like you said, sometimes you can feel overlooked. I feel like the game has grown a lot from, back when we played, at least I know here in, at Oakwood. But sometimes you could feel overlooked. And for me, that was so frustrating, seeing guys where it's just like, man, I was busting this guy's behind in the Converse League or in the open runs. But then you're seeing them get the all-city honors and you're seeing them get, player of the, and it's just like, man, I'm better than this guy, but because I'm not in a league, because I'm not in a, school where you're getting that type of recognition, I feel like I'm overlooked. And so, man, I feel like what you've created is just not just, an experience, but, something that can leave a legacy, and really make a difference in the lives of our young people, man. So again, thanks to you, for making that dream come to fruition.
This might be a question for both of you guys about Adventist All-American Tournament weekend, but having been through one of them and seeing it now, what opportunity does it provide for those bonds and memories to be made between those players, and then just the opportunity that presents itself because of, you said, lack of recognition is a real thing for some Adventist ball players. So what does it mean to both of you, I guess, to be able to have that platform for these kids to shine?
Well, I'll start, and then Dustin, you can give your overall vision for it. I felt like having the coaches there was awesome. So the way, they structured it, is you had college coaches from the other Adventist schools there, and they're running them through drills, and they're talking to them. And so now you're getting to hear from college coaches what they're going to be looking for and what they're going to be expecting. And then I think it also helps the coaches with recruitment, because now you're getting kids that not only are talented, but also have the same belief system. Because I know sometimes you want to recruit talent, and you want to win, and you want to witness. But I mean, to be able to pull from that pool of our own, kids, I think is just a tremendous blessing.
Yeah, I mean, having the Adventist college coaches there really elevated the level of focus and intensity, I think. You're never sure what it's going to be like, what the energy is going to be like. It's an all-star kind of event, so sometimes that can get a little silly, not very serious. But because those coaches were there, I mean, they were trying to put their best foot forward all day on Friday. And I think anytime you go through something with somebody on the court, even playing pickup basketball, right? You win 5 games in a row with somebody, you don't even know who they are. You have a bond with them. You don't know anything about them, but you're ready to die for them. And so, yeah, these kids, I mean, being able to go through this whole, call it historic, I guess, experience together, and be able to come out of that just with all of the, great results that they produced, I think has really bonded them. And it's a testament to their character and the quality of people that they are, that they were able to kind of make that first event really special, because it was definitely, I think, something that was memorable for everybody that was involved, and we're looking forward to next year at Union. So yeah, no, it's a good question. I think one thing that, an opportunity that from last year is that everybody kept saying man, we wish we had a little more time. We just want this to keep going, which you want as an organizer, right? You want to leave people wanting a little more, but we are providing a little more time this year in 2026 in Nebraska. So it'll be a half day to a full day extra there. So yeah, and we're looking forward to it. One of the things I'm looking forward to the most is being able to not only have all these people coming together again, but is adding in a special element that I wanted to do last year and just wasn't able to make it happen. I think last year, just being transparent, there was a lot that I had to do just to kind of cast the vision for everybody to see what it could be. That's just the reality. It's just sometimes I had to just make things happen, and then I think everybody kind of understands what it can be. Well, one of those things was a student-athlete journal. I thought it would be awesome to be able to have a journal that would, one, help guide people through that weekend. So specifically providing some information about the weekend, outlines for seminars and workshops and worships, but also a devotional, specifically speaking towards athletes and their the spiritual parallels that we see as we go through our seasons. And lo and behold, over since the event happened, my friend Adrian is hey, by the way, I'm writing a student athlete journal devotional. Can you take a look at it? Can you read it? And I was this is what I wanted last year. This is amazing. So Adrian, tell us a little bit about mastering your slingshot and how that came about.
Oh, well, so when I spoke last year, I'm really big on acronyms. That's one of the ways I learn. And so leading up to the All-Star weekend, I had actually started working on a book called Mastering Your Slingshot. And it just follows the life of David, and just how, we really have to master the gifts that God gave us. And so that was the foundation of my speech at the All-Star weekend. And so, I got some positive feedback. Some people were hey, man, that was really cool, and, so after a few conversations, I was just well, I have a student athlete journal that goes along with it. And so, and I had actually talked to the coaches about that. And they were just like, oh man, that'd be awesome, man. I'd love to have that. So I went back to my room that night and I took the outline from my book and started trying to figure out, okay, how can I make this special for student athletes?
I didn't realize you started working on it that like during the event. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that's what I did. I kind of started looking at, well, what would a coach need? What would a player need? And then thinking of our own experiences, time management, your class schedule, your workout schedule. I always tell players, the only time you work out or pick up a ball is during practice, you're going to fall behind. You've got to get in the gym and you're on your own. You've got to be putting up shots and working out on your own. When you get with the team, that's when everything comes together. But you've got to be a complete player on your own. And so, I look at that. I look at areas where I fell short, where I look back at my college career and say, man, or my high school career, and say, what would I have done differently? And so again, it's like ball is life, taking those tips and tools and saying, man, I see where I might have fallen short. How can I make sure this next young man or young lady doesn't make those same mistakes, or at least has the information. Now, if they make the same mistake, that's on them. But, as coaches, as mentors, as much as we can, we want to try to prepare them and say, hey, been there, done that. These are some things that can help you get a little stronger as you go, through your career.
Well, like I said, I read through the whole manuscript, and I just love it. It is really unique because it takes you through the whole cycle of the basketball season, preseason or off season, preseason, regular season, and then after the season's over. And it really forces kids to kind of evaluate. A lot of times we just are on autopilot and kids aren't, I was telling somebody the other day, I was so oblivious as a teenager sometimes, like I wasn't even paying attention to things. So prompting kids to like really pause, hey, assess where you're at right now, not only physically, but also spiritually and mentally and emotionally. And honestly, I hope that all of our Adventist Academy basketball programs will buy this book and will implement it into their season, because it is a built-in way for kids and teams as a whole to be able to walk through something that's meaningful and provides that spiritual connection to each other, but also growing in your relationship with God as you go throughout the season, and taking advantage of those really special, emotional, devastating moments that happen all throughout the season, because those are life changing in their little ways. So so we're laying it out right now. So I should say we're actually laying out a special edition, Adventist Hoops All-American 2026 special edition that we're going to have for the athletes in Lincoln, Nebraska for the event this summer. And so we're really excited to be able to provide that. And like I said, it'll have some All-American specific info about the event and hopefully be a tool for kids to use throughout that weekend. But then we'll have the regular version as well of the devotional and the journal to help kids kind of assess where they're at in all these phases of life and spirituality and basketball. So Adrian, thank you for all the work that you've put into that.
Thank you. I know I got some edits I got to get to you too. Josh, what he didn't say, he took a red pen to it, Josh. He took a red pen. He was just like, yeah, fix this.
Don't worry, I write articles for him now, so we're in the same boat.
You guys have a shared experience. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hey, we love it because, hey, you're making us better, so we love it. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode. And I should say that not only is Josh a regular, but I also asked Adrian if he would be a regular on the Adventist Hoops podcast. And I should have mentioned that right from the beginning, but we just got right into it. So excited to have Adrian join us, and we'll be a trio here talking all things Adventist basketball and the people of Adventist basketball. So I'm excited to do it with you guys.
Awesome, man. Hey, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.